And then check out the peregrine falcons. They nest in the church.
Yeah. Where?
I don't know if we had one that just flew off. But if you see the window with the white underneath it, that's all a falcon.
You are listening to Urban Wildlife Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Wildlife Podcast. In this episode, Tony and I go check out some peregrine falcons in the Manayunk neighborhood of Philadelphia. We talked about peregrine falcons there and peregrine falcons generally. And we actually have some really fun conversations with just the neighbors of Manayunk about peregrine falcons in their neighborhood. If you want to listen to more about urban raptors, guess what? We got an episode all about it. This is from June 16th, 2016, called All the Urban Raptors We Could Fit in One Episode. We talk about barred owls, peregrine falcons, South African black sparrowhawks. Great cosmopolitan urban raptor conversation. And I almost forgot, we had another raptor episode, December 15th, just this past year, 2017, where we went for a walk with Dr. Christian Hunold, political scientist at Drexel University, who is a dedicated hawk watcher and who also explores in his work the way that urbanites experience nature, engage with nature, and in this example, through the urban hawks of Philadelphia. So it's another great look at how we in cities can enjoy, learn from, be inspired by our urban raptors. If you like the Urban Wildlife Podcast, please rate us highly on your podcast listening app of choice. That helps other people who are just tooling around looking for something about wildlife, helps them find us also. Please tell your friends about the podcast. And of course, please get in touch with us at urbanwildlifecast@gmail.com. Please hit us up on Twitter at urbwildlifecast. And please find us on Facebook. Hey, podcast listeners, one more thing. We have started a Patreon account. So Patreon is this way that you can contribute some money to the Urban Wildlife Podcast. Basically, we need to get some new microphones. So if you could chip in a few bucks, that would be awesome. That'll help us improve the sound quality for you and for other listeners. And even before we announce this officially on the podcast, we already have our first Patreon contributor. So Dawn Weber, thank you very much. So hey, you too can chip in and be part of the Urban Wildlife Podcast like this. So go to www.patreon.com/urbanwildlifecast, and there you can chip in too. Thank you very much. We're going to start this episode off with a piece that isn't about raptors, but one of our listeners did get in touch with us, Rebecca, who lives in West Philly, to talk about her West Philly coyote experience. We went to the corner where it actually happened and talked about it there.
I'm Rebecca, and we're in West Philly, and you want to know about the time I saw a coyote here.
Yep, we're standing at 53rd and Pine Street, basic West Philly row house area.
Yeah, pretty
There's
much.
A school to our right in the parking lot.
Yeah, residential area. So this was like 3 years ago, and I was coming home from work. It was like probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was parking on 53rd between Osage and Pine, and I saw a coyote walking up the east side of 53rd Street, and it had something in its mouth. I don't know what it was, food, I guess. It wasn't a pup or anything. And it crossed over to the west side of the street, and so I get out of my car, and I was watching it, and it was just walking west on Pine Street, on the south side of the street, and I followed it all the way up. It walked like 2 blocks, and then I couldn't see it anymore.
What made you think it was a coyote and not like a stray dog or something like that?
I'm from a more rural area, so we know the difference.
Okay.
I just like its tail is, like kind of fluffier, and it's down, and it's skinnier than like a domestic dog. It just walks totally different.
Okay.
So, yeah, I hunt and fish and stuff like that, so spent a lot of time outside. I work outside, so I know.
You know a coyote when you see one?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right.
So we are standing in
Manayunk at a Parks and Recreation facility called Venice Island Performing Arts Center. It's a really nice facility, funded largely by the water department. It's right next to a pumping station, and it's a beautiful facility on the Manayunk Canal and on the Schuylkill River. And this itself would be a great place because a lot of native plantings. You can, there's like a catwalk up to the building that puts you right in a canopy of sycamores and right along the river. It's really nice. But it has the best view of St. John the Baptist Church. And on the steeple, in a window, is a peregrine falcon nest and one soaring right now that looks straight at the center. It couldn't be more perfect. And so
we just saw one that had been chilling underneath the cross on the steeple. It just took off to our left. And when Tony says this, we're looking at the steeple, and we just so happened to have seen a presentation about this at the last Delaware Valley Ornithological Club meeting. So I know that open window that we're looking at that's facing out towards the river, I guess it's the west-facing window or southwest? I don't know.
West-facing, yeah.
West-facing. There is a specially built box for the peregrine falcons. The idea was that they've been nesting in this decrepit steeple, and then they renovated the steeple, and in the process put in a special box with a special little like passage leading to it, so that the peregrines would have comfortable nesting.
And the Game Commission officials can come in there and open up it from the backside and process the fledglings and keep an eye on the progress
instead
of the birds.
Instead of going up rickety ladders and floors with boards missing and stuff. And on the outside, right into the window, there's a nice coating of uric acid and other parts of everything that come out of a bird's cloaca.
Yeah.
Where they just let fly out the side. And we're hearing song sparrows in the background, plus water from a fountain down the sidewalk a bit.
Yeah, there's like a spray station, like kids can play in a fountain.
Yeah.
Got goldfinches. We also be here in the highway because we're right next to 76. This is cool. I love this spot. This is like one of the coolest parts of Philadelphia, except that it's loved by like bro college people.
Manioc?
Yeah, so it's like, it would be like, it's a part of Philadelphia that looks like, I don't know, Pittsburgh or like San Francisco almost.
Pittsburgh's really good, yeah.
It's like real hilly and
narrow little streets.
Yeah, and right along a river. It's like really cool. Like it would be like the spot in any other city, except that it's just known for like college bros and like white hats and like khaki.
When I was a kid, we called them white caps.
Yeah.
Or white hats. It was like the shorthand for that sort of broiness. And there's some chimney swifts zipping around. So let's talk a little bit about peregrines. This is like a lot of people's favorite urban wildlife story because
we chose it as our logo for a reason.
As our logo, exactly.
Yeah.
That they had gone pretty near extinct, especially in the east of North America, thanks to DDT.
Well, they kind of have. Well, what I mean by that
there you go.
Is the falcons we have now are what's the Chimera?
I don't know.
Crimea? What's the Chimera? Chimera.
Yeah.
They are a chimera. Not the contested part of the Ukraine. The chimera of different subspecies of peregrine falcon. The eastern subspecies is. Sorry, we're looking at a
house sparrows, like looking like it's trying to hawk some spiders over there.
Yeah, in a street light.
Fluttering under a street light, looking up into it.
Yeah, that was cool. So, all right, they are chimera of different subspecies because the eastern subspecies was almost entirely rendered extinct by DDT, and what ones were around have now pretty much interbred with the birds that were released to replenish the population. So falconers,
Western populations.
Yeah. So falconers had and there might even be some from like European birds. I'm not even sure
because they got them from falconers.
Yeah. So falconers provided breeding stock. So it's one of the things where like I'm not like I kind of think falconry is weird. It's not. I'm not like all about it, but
I don't like it.
It's like collecting, where like it's like museum collections where you're kind of like, oh, this is why do we still have to do this? But turns out with peregrine falcons and ospreys and bald eagles and I think brown pelicans, they were able to realize that
brown pelicans.
Yeah, they were also hit heavily by DDT.
But people had them in captivity?
No, I'm talking about the collections of like museum collections. So
Oh, yeah,
actually
yeah.
killing birds and putting them in drawers.
Got it.
And there was all this genetic material available.
I was trying to imagine pelican
Yeah.
falconry where you send them out there to catch a fish.
Yeah. Well, they do it cormorants, so why not?
Yeah, I guess so.
And so they had all these birds in collections that were able to actually look at the levels of, pollution in the birds.
Yep.
Um,
Is that what kind of swallow is that? A barn swallow?
yeah.
Okay. Barn
And-
swallow working the air above the canal.
And they also had eggs that collected, so they were able to measure eggshell thickness and look
Yeah.
at. So they had all this, on hand to make a case that DDT was indeed the culprit in eggshell thinning of those birds, causing decline. And they also had birds.
Comes a turkey vulture off in the distance.
Maybe the peregrines will harass it. Yeah, they also had the birds in captivity and falconry, and the falconers also have the know-how.
Of how to actually raise
Yeah,
baby birds.
so,
Yeah.
you know-
And so it makes it a fun discussion, which why don't we get into, about so we've got these very urban populations of peregrines because when they were initially trying to release them in quote unquote natural habitat, like on cliff faces, which in PA, in our state, the home state of Pennsylvania, was really only along the Susquehanna River, right? The bluffs over the Susquehanna.
I think a little bit of northern Delaware and Lehigh too.
Maybe up on bluffs, other parts of rivers, but they hadn't been, let's say, naturally in cities before that. But then they
were on City Hall. They've been on City Hall for over 100 years.
They have?
Yeah, they're breeding
I stand corrected.
on City
All
Hall
right.
before DDT.
So I might just cut out the line of conversation entirely. But
Without a doubt, the proportion of falcons nesting on cliffs to man-made has completely shifted to the vast majority is now in the cities.
So what I wonder about though is there's the thought experiment, would that have happened if, in the absence of DDT and in the absence of a couple hundred years of us shooting them out of the sky whenever we saw them? Because it's when you read, I was just reading for another project, the history of the Pennsylvania Game Commission. And then also reading other sort of historical, but natural history accounts from various points in the past. And no one had any compunction about blasting quote unquote duck hawks out of the sky when they saw them,
Right. In fact, there used to be people will just line up along Sunset Avenue in Cape May and just slaughter every hawk, every
Hawk Mountain was originally, yeah.
Hawk Mountain, the same thing. So
when we have these urban reflourishings of peregrine falcons, or even thinking about Cooper's hawks and red-tailed hawks, which you can red-tails year round, Coopers especially in the winter, are very much urban birds now.
yeah.
Would they have?
I think Coopers are year round. I think Coopers. I wouldn't be surprised if Cooper hawks. They definitely outnumber peregrines in the cities. I wouldn't be surprised if they match or outnumber red tails.
There you go.
It's just red tails are they soar and they're easy to see.
Big, obvious birds.
Yeah.
Coopers, you might just think it's a big pigeon or something.
Yeah.
So then,
Howdy.
Hi. How you doing?
And then just check out the peregrine falcons. They nest in the church.
Yeah. Where?
I don't know if we had one. It just flew off. But if you see the window with the white underneath it,
Yeah.
that's all falcon.
Where they hang out, huh?
And they nest and they've done nesting, and the younger are just now flying around, and they tend to come back in the evening to the tower.
That's awesome. Are they big?
Yeah, they're like almost 2 feet long, and weigh about 2 pounds.
That's awesome, man. How are they different from, let's say, a hawk or something? Like a
So
red-tail?
they're falcons are a lot. They have hooked bill and talons, but they're actually not related. They're very distantly related from hawks, and they have pointed wings and a long tail, and they hunt other birds almost exclusively. Well, some hawks do hunt other birds, but most hawks hunt red-tailed hawks hunt
variety of
mammals
stuff,
and things
yeah.
like that. These are bird specialists, and they dive
on top of them.
and they can hit 200 miles an hour.
Dude,
and dive.
I was at someone's, I sell flooring, and I remember their glass slide, their storm door was open. It was glass, and it looked like snow coming down, but it was hot outside. And I'm like, what the hell is it? So I walk outside, and it was feathers.
Nice.
A bird had another bird on the top of a telephone pole, and it was just picking them apart and throwing the feathers.
Yeah.
And I went back in. I said, hey, there's a hawk out there eating another bird. And they go, we thought it was snowing. We didn't know what it was. It was freaking,
Yeah, if you go up by the church on the ground, there's like pigeons and starlings and all other things just like
Laid
ripped to
out.
Wings
shreds.
and
Yeah.
heads and feet and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Have a good night. So the
That'd be
Coopers-
funny to actually put that in there, that interaction.
I think I might.
Yeah.
But Coopers, red tails. So the question I always have is, how prevalent would they have always been urban birds if they had been allowed to fly around while cities were really developing and hadn't just been shot on sight?
I think there would have
starting
been-
in the colonial period.
My guess would be that there would be. I think no one actively hacked. No one actively hacked. That's the term for like raising raptors and releasing them. I guess they call hacking because no one is.
I saw that term. Yeah.
Yeah, no one's actively hacked Coopers and red-tailed
Good point.
hawks.
And they
right?
manage on their own.
Right, and there's actually more of them than peregrines.
And basically, all that happened there is we stopped shooting them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think that the numbers of peregrines nesting, at least the proportion of them nesting in cities compared to man-made structures, is skewed towards cities because of human intervention.
Yeah.
I think that has to be the case. And
That they were raised that way and remember it, and sort of you've almost got a cultural aspect to their nesting preferences now.
yeah, and I think I'm curious if a lot of these peregrines now, if they would even recognize like a cliff as like a viable nest option because they're so used to like man-made structures.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that song sparrow still?
Yeah, I love song sparrows.
Yeah.
So we're in Philadelphia, so song sparrow is our most common sparrow year-round.
And by sparrow, you mean actual native sparrows
Yeah,
versus the ubiquitous
but
house sparrow.
yeah, but these are, I guess, related to the European buntings, and our buntings here are actually cardinals. So
So all you Europeans listening, don't get
Yeah.
too confused. But all you Europeans listening will also know that peregrines nest. I was looking this up in a lot of cities in Europe. Most UK cities now have nesting peregrines. I was looking up like peregrines nesting in like Warsaw in Poland, Brussels. The Polish ones have been coming in from Germany. So it seems that like urban peregrines, wherever there are, at least in Europe and North America, where there are peregrines, there are urban peregrines. I was poking around some South American stuff, but I couldn't find anything about them nesting in, because they're in like the southern third of South America. And so I was like checking, do they nest in Buenos Aires? But I couldn't find anything saying they do. But they certainly like occasionally are around.
you know what's interesting to me is like how rare orange-breasted falcon is. So orange-breasted falcon is very closely related to peregrine, and it's a rainforest species. So from southern Mexico to like northern Argentina, and it nests on like cliffs in rainforests, and that's not always hard. So that's pretty hard to come by.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be in Manaus or something like that.
Yeah, and so if you go to any of these tropical cities, there's tons of birds in those cities that they would be good prey items. Lots of
Yeah.
doves and parakeets and a lot of things that I think they would. It's interesting that I don't know of any, and that bird is like really hard to find because you essentially have, there's only Tikal. They nest on man-made structures. They nest on Tikal. They nest on Mayan structures. So, and I think there's a tower they nest on it. So they do nest on man-made structures. Why haven't they gotten to the cities? Because
Yeah,
you would think
why aren't
like
they in every city in Central America then?
yeah, exactly. Manaus would be a great spot. Like Lima. I don't know about so much. Maybe Tarapoto.
Lima's other side of that, yeah.
Yeah. Say like Tarapoto and Iquitos and some of these other. Plus I think they're at least.
They're up in the Andes?
I said Iquito, not Quito. Iquitos.
There you go. Got it.
Iquitos is the.
Peru, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Looking up.
But I think they were in Southeast. I think they're in Southeast Brazil too, in the rainforest there, Atlantic forest, and There's that's where almost all the Brazilian cities are.
Question for you: I was looking up also peregrine relatives like from South Asia, something called the Shaheen falcon. Might be a different name for it.
Yeah.
But there are peregrine relatives, or
Like Lanner falcon, Saker falcon.
but like no. But I think like a subspecies of peregrine
Oh, subspecies, yeah.
in South Asia. I couldn't find anything about them nesting in cities. I was trying, but anyhow, our European listeners might very well recognize. And also, I mean, like urban raptors. We did a whole piece on black sparrowhawks in South Africa, very urban. We've got plenty of kestrels in cities all over Europe and North America.
Yeah, the
Well, it seems to be like more of a European thing.
Yeah, the European and the lesser kestrel are notorious for nesting on man-made structures.
And then there was the kestrels in Palestine that we talked about.
Yeah.
Where you've got kestrels nesting on some of the oldest man-made structures.
Hey,
around.
I got an episode. I got something we got to explore. I know a bird of prey in Europe that's notorious for nesting on man-made structures. Eurasian eagle owl.
Really?
Yeah.
Those are awesome.
Yeah, because they nest. That's a cliff nesting species. So there's a famous video of I think it's in Finland, of a football game where the owls are attacking the players in Finland.
Because they were nesting nearby and they were
Nesting in the stadium. So Eurasian eagle owl nests on man-made structures because
these are like, so if you think like great horned owls are big, the eagle owls are they're bigger.
yeah, like
right?
a quarter bigger. Yeah.
And so when you see pictures, someone shows you a picture of like, here's an owl dragging a deer out of the snow or something. That's the eagle owl.
Yeah.
And that one picture of like a big owl picking up no, that wasn't.
Is it a golden eagle?
No, there's some picture of an owl picking up a cat
Oh.
that makes the rounds of the internet.
That's a barred owl.
That's a barred owl?
Yeah, I was surprised.
Damn, all right.
They're not that big, yeah. There's a falconer that would come to events in Philly, and she has a Eurasian eagle owl, and I was talking to her about it, and she's like, I can never do this with great horn. She's like, Eurasian eagle owls might be bigger, but great horns are way fiercer. They're way tougher. So.
All right.
Great horned owl is the greatest looking owl in the world.
It's a fabulous owl.
Yeah, I mean it's the classic looking owl. Like,
And it's got the classic call
yeah.
or song, whichever you want to call it. Like I mean, an owl, looking for an owl goes, woo-hoo. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
And then I remember what, in Australia was the powerful owls?
Yeah.
Called? There was another urban
I got
owl.
to see one. Yeah, I looked for them nesting in the Botanic Gardens, but I saw one in a Royal National Park, which is like a park that's within, Sydney. It's like, it's where like Sydney starts to sprawl a bit, and
But but I feel like I see this kind of thing on Twitter sometimes from Australian birders, of powerful owl eating possum and like
yeah, and it's like usually
suburb or
big
something.
big gardens, like a Botanic Garden or like the grounds of the zoo or something. Also in Australia they have the tropical counterpart. It's a little bit smaller, is the Rufous owl, and the Rufous owl. I looked for it, didn't see it, but it's like
had a great funk career.
yeah, three of the most reliable locations for Rufous owl is Cairns, that city that and Townsville, another city, and then Darwin.
Okay.
And they are apparently specialists on flying foxes.
Oh,
Yeah.
well there.
And if you go to Australia,
A lot of flying foxes.
they're everywhere. Yeah. So that's cool. I mean, that's an episode too, the urban flying foxes. I mean, it's crazy. You're walking around Sydney, and you look up, and the Batman symbols above your head.
We did an episode on
We did,
urban
yeah.
flying foxes of Cairns.
That's right. Yeah. Got a very attractive dog coming our way right
Did you
now.
get video of your nestling banding participation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Tony, every year,
How's it going?
except for actually one year that I did it and you weren't there, which was several years ago. I feel like every other year you are up there in City Hall or another building with your buddy Art McMorris,
It looks like Robert Redford.
who's
So
the Game
handsome.
Commission guy and also a local birder. who does all the banding of the fledgling peregrines around PA, all those you can get to because there's so many pairs now. But they like to do a big media event in Philadelphia every year where they invite city officials and they invite...
Yeah, the mayor has come twice now.
Mayor's come twice.
This new mayor is really cool. Our previous
Mayor
mayor, he was fine, but our new mayor...
I don't think he was into nature.
Yeah, our new mayor is like a cool guy.
So they would come and like check out the falcons, and Tony's there. You've been the broom man, right?
Yeah.
Broom man is the guy who stands out there with a broom, and when the adult falcons try to dive bomb the biologist who's pulling the fledglings out of the nest box, Tony's job is to block the falcons coming in, not to hit them, but to block. I remember I was a broom man.
I've also been the nestling
fetcher.
Yeah, and like
that's scarier.
Yeah, well, no. He handed me the nestlings, and I run them back to the box, and we'll come back.
The nestling shuttle.
And then I've also been the note taker.
Aha. I can never do some handwriting's terrible.
Yeah.
But the broom position's fun because you sort of, it's like a real life video game where you've got these like falcons that come in from a block away to make the turn up in the sky, and then they're coming for you.
And we don't whack them with the broom. We just hold the broom up to give them a target that's not someone's head.
Exactly. Yeah. Not quite action exactly, but we just saw a heron fly by.
So a little later, after we'd sort of wrapped up what we thought was the recording for this episode and we're getting ready to go into a pizza joint, we ended up spotting falcons again and then chatting with a few folks on the street right there in Manayunk.
We were parking our car to head over to get pizza. Same general neighborhood, Manayunk, and we heard the sounds of what looks to be one of the fledglings, a female, begging food from her dad. And now overhead, you're also going to hear some chimney swifts chattering. She's now the fledgling female perched by herself on top of a power line tower by regional rail tracks. And got the chimney swifts flying around. So we're saying in spite of all of our complaints for the unholy trio, we got a lot of native birds.
Indeed we do.
In our sky right now.
Peregrine falcon. They nest in St. John the Baptist.
So that's it for this Urban Wildlife Podcast episode in the field. I'm talking about urban peregrine falcons in Philadelphia's Manayunk neighborhood and also peregrine falcons elsewhere in the world. Hope you liked it. If you did like it, please rate us highly on your podcast listening app of choice. Please tell your friends about it. And of course, please feel free to get in touch with us at urbanwildlifecast@gmail.com. And please hit us up on Twitter at urbwildlifecast. Please don't forget, if you want to chip in to the Urban Wildlife Podcast and basically help us buy some new microphones, you can check us out at www.patreon.com/urbanwildlifecast, and you can throw in a few bucks and we can get better microphones and hopefully improve the listening experience for you and other listeners. Thank you.